No, our hearts are so central to us, and I think it's no accident that God put them right in the middle of us. They're core to our physical survival, sure, but they're also core to who we are as people. We're called to be people of compassionate and loving hearts. Today, the church celebrates the solemnity of the most sacred heart of Jesus. In our second reading, St. Paul says it so well, that when we have Christ dwell in our hearts, we're grounded, we're rooted. We're rooted in a love that surpasses all of our human understanding. And it's a divine love that fills us all with the fullness of God. I have an ebook, and I've been reading it. It's called Not by Bread Alone, and it has some really good reflections. So here's a story. It's a story about a young girl, just got a driver's license. And once she got it, of course, she went to her dad saying, I want to borrow the family car. Some of us have probably been there. And she started to plead with her dad just to borrow the car so that she could, bring some friends to the beach. In fact, the car was the brand new car in the family. Her dad finally relented and said, take the car, but just please be safe, be careful. And she was. She stayed at the speed limit. She was very careful when she went to the beach and parked. But then on the way home, you know what happened? Crash. She never saw one of the other vehicles. And in an instant, a broken headlight, the passenger side door was damaged, and the front bumper was dangling. And she was terrified of what was going to be the consequences when she got home. Her dad was going to be so mad. I'm not looking forward to going home and seeing what the parents would say to her. It was not going to be good. And then she got home, and then she was there looking at her parents at the doorway. And then something surprisingly happened. Her dad ran right out of the door, ahead of the mother, and went straight to her, went straight to the door, didn't even look at the damage, opened the door before she could even do it, grabbed her hand, and she started to say, Dad, I'm so sorry. He didn't even let her finish. He wanted to know if she was okay. Is anyone hurt? And then he hugged her. And he hugged her tighter and tighter. In the weight of that moment, she got emotional. She started to cry. She was surprised that her father was so understanding. He wasn't mad or upset with her. And she was also a bit ashamed of herself because she expected so little of her dad. She was stunned, but she was grateful that her dad came immediately running to her with an unconditional, loving heart. You see, when our hearts are open to loving unconditionally, we're filled with all the fullness of God. There was this elderly man. He was in his 70s, and for the past 5 years was taking care of his wife, married to her for over 50 years, and she was in the last stages of Alzheimer's. Day after day, he would come and visit her every morning through all weather. Even when his own health had challenges, he would sit there every day, every morning at the assisted living facility. And if the family was concerned, they didn't want him driving out in the bad weather, and they wanted him to take care of himself. And they would say, you can miss a day. She doesn't remember you. She doesn't recognize you. Take a day off. But I love what he would say to them. He would say, I remember who she is, and she needs me next to her. You see, when we love with unconditional love, we become full of the fullness of God. So here's what we can do today. Is there someone in our lives that may be broken, that may be struggling, that may be lonely? We can reach out to them, extend our joyful and listening hearts, share and dwell in the sacred heart and the divine heart of Jesus today. Share God's love with them. And today, we can fill them, and at the same time, we can fill ourselves, all with the fullness of God.